You hate to see it. Stability can be one of Conan's most frustrating mechanics. Sometimes things just don't work out and you really need that little bit of extra support without compromising in aesthetics. To achieve that, today I'm going to be teaching you how to use the Structural Integrity perk. So, without further ado, let's get started. Structural Integrity is a level 20 perk in the expertise tree. It's quite simple. Structures you build are 25% more stable. That sounds pretty straightforward, but how does that 25% actually affect what you build? Well, it reduces your stability loss multiplier. This affects how much stability each piece away from a stable source will lose. This multiplier is set to 1 by default, meaning ceilings will lose 20 stability, wedges lose 14, stairs lose 25, and roofs lose 20. Effectively, this means from a stable source, a piece with 100 stability, you can build out 4 ceilings, 7 wedges, 3 stairs, or 4 roof pieces. However, with Structural Integrity, your stability loss multiplier reduces to 0.75, meaning that pieces will only take 75% of their default value rather than 100. With this, ceilings lose 15 stability, wedges lose 10, stairs lose 18, and roofs lose 15. Therefore, from a stable source, you can build out 6 ceilings, 9 wedges, 5 stairs, and 6 roof pieces. So now we know the technical mumbo jumbo of how Structural Integrity works, what use can you actually get out of it? Well, you can use it to save resources by having to use less stable sources, which can be okay, but the best use is definitely building things that you usually can't, or things that would require a lot more stability to achieve. Probably one of the biggest uses is large unsupported stretches. Seeing as you can build 6 tiles away from a stable source, if you build 14 tiles of foundations and remove them all aside from the end pieces, you end up with a huge 12 tile unsupported stretch of ceilings. Using this trick, we can build things like this bridge layout. This is roughly a 30 tile gap, but with only a central tower to act as a middle source of stability, we can cross this river in pretty elegant fashion thanks to Structural Integrity. There's also things like this larger build here. I've stretched stability to its limit in this design, and all we need to finish the roof off is a cap, but there is not enough stability. I could run a pillar up the centre, but if I want this atrium area to be left nice and open, Structural Integrity gives me that little bit of extra stability to ensure this doesn't happen. To be honest, there are a lot of potential uses for Structural Integrity, far too many to begin even listing, but perhaps the best one is that you just end up with that little bit of extra wiggle room, which is a lot more forgiving for whatever you're trying to build. If you're fairly used to the building system, you're probably quite used to building at the average default stability loss multiplier. So therefore, by having Structural Integrity enabled, you've always got that little bit of a safety buffer where if you step over the usual stability mark, Structural Integrity is there to kind of catch you and help you out with those small errors you might have made. This is especially important in more complicated designs and especially really large builds where things might get a bit difficult and stability is generally a much more complex consideration. Now, you might think the perk sounds good, but it's quite expensive. I mean, 20 attribute points is a very heavy investment. Well, fortunately, you don't have to keep that investment. I've got a 12 tile gap here, only possible with, of course, Structural Integrity. If I spec out of the perk, the bridge is still standing. Anything placed while you have Structural Integrity active retains its multiplier, meaning the stability loss multiplier does not adjust in consideration of if you have the relevant perk active. Now, if something does break and you do have to replace it, your new stability loss multiplier will be in effect, so if this bridge were to break, you wouldn't be able to fix it without the Integrity perk, so you would have to respec back into Integrity to replace those pieces. However, from the PvE perspective, considering how much the Purge has changed, Structural Integrity in PvE has a pretty solid place. If you don't want your main base or a different side base to be raided, you could build it with Structural Integrity, have a lot more freedom of what you can build, and then you'll basically never have to spec back into that perk if pieces don't get broken. To recap, Structural Integrity is one of the most useful building perks in Conan Exiles. You get an extra 25% stability whilst building, which creates a meaningful increase in what you can build without introducing new support structures. Perhaps even more useful is the benefit of the perk remaining even after you've specced out of it. Structural Integrity is not a must-have perk, but if you're a builder, it's definitely worth using, both for specific stability issues and just having a bit more flexibility in general. And there we have it, a guide on how to use the Structural Integrity perk. Thanks for watching, and of course a massive thanks to our wonderful esteemed coffee cultists for continuing to support the channel over on Patreon. This feature came out quite a while ago, but I thought I'd cover it today as I don't really see a lot of people mention it all that much, and I think some might get some really good use out of it. Again, thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you soon.